Welcome to Satsang Conversations, where we journey across the world to the serene and sacred spaces of BAPS Mandirs. This podcast is your gateway to exploring profound spiritual lessons that echo through time, yet remain incredibly relevant to our everyday lives. Each episode brings heartfelt discussions, wisdom, and insights that help us navigate the challenges of modern life with a deeper sense of peace, purpose, and connection. So whether you're seeking inspiration, solace, or a spark to light up your spiritual path, join us as we dive into conversations that uplift the soul and enrich the heart. This week, we join the Sadhus at the BAPS Shri Swaminarayan Mandir in Ahmedabad, where we will be joining in conversation with Swami Amrutvijaydas, Swami Dhavalmuni, Swami Gurusnehdas, Bansalbhai Bhalja, and Dhavalbhai Mistry.
In Gadhada Section 117, the title is Negative Influence in Satsang, Not Uttering Discouraging Words. On Margshirvadi 5, Samvat 1876, which is 6th December 1819, Shiji Maharaj was sitting in a west-facing room of Dada Kacha's Darbar in Gadhada. He was wearing a white kis and had covered himself with a white cotton cloth. He had also tied a white bag around his head, and a tassel of yellow flowers was inserted into that bag. Wearing a garland of yellow flowers, Maharaj was seated in this manner in a very cheerful mood, while a passage from the Srimad Bhagavat was being read. How often do we pay importance to the opening paragraph in the Vachanamrut, if at all?
I think this, I would skip this part.
Like you wouldn't even read it?
Yeah, in the sense that to me, it's the same in every Vachanamrut, right? It's like Maharaj was wearing this, he was here, and then it's like, yeah, I'll be honest,
sometimes you are just waiting to get this completed, right? When the essence is coming, right?
Yeah, you usually want to just get to the core message.
Yes.
Sometimes, right? But see, this opening paragraph is very important because it gives the date, which sort of establishes the historicity of the Vachanamrut. And when the first English translation of the Vachanamrut was inaugurated by Pramukh Swami Maharaj in New York in 1977, the professor of divinity from Harvard University, Professor John Carman, he was present. And he reviewed the whole Vachanamrut before the actual assembly for the inauguration. And he commented one very important thing, saying that with the dates mentioned in each Vachanamrut, the historicity of the Vachanamrut makes it authentic. So it's not something which is sort of imagined. There is a place and time in which this discourse happened, and you're establishing that time and location. So it's a very important thing. Another thing is also that the title is also very important, because the title reflects the content of the Vachanamrut. Now, the titles were assigned to each Vachanamrut after the Vachanamrut was compiled by the editors, okay? But the Paramahansis, they must have obviously gone through all the subject matter of each Vachanamrut and then put in a title which summarizes the Vachanamrut, gives the gist of the Vachanamrut. So that just by reading the title, you get an idea what Maharaj is trying to say. So that's a very important aspect. It's worth contemplating the title, especially this one, because in this particular one, the Vachanamrut in English is titled, what is it? Negative
Influence in Satsang, not uttering discouraging
words.
words.
Whereas the Gujarati, the original Gujarati is Satsang Ma Kusang. It's like a paradox, because Satsang is like a positive environment, but where's the Kusang come from? Okay, so it's like one of these Zen Buddhist koans, there's a paradox which you have to resolve. But I think Maharaj...
It makes it stick in your mind, right?
It makes it stick in your mind. And they've extracted this title from something which Maharaj says later on in the Vachanamrut. But it's not like somebody announced in the Sabha that Maharaj is going to talk on this, right? This is something which Maharaj just started talking about. But then afterwards the title was assigned. So the content of the Vachanamrut actually is reflected in the title. And in this particular case, Maharaj, I think, uses this particular type of sort of word framing to sort of jolt people out of their sort of lethargy, to make them aware that, we're in a safe environment, but yet there's a possibility that we may not be as safe as we think we are. So that's, I think, a very important aspect.
For the first paragraph, if you remember in 2021, Dr. Sai, he stayed with us in Saranpur for an entire year, and he would do morning katha. And every single day he would read the first paragraph and drill into us the one line. he'd be like, Chalo bada pehla dhyan thase, pachi gnan thase. So meaning that this first paragraph is incredibly important. Like he would do Nirupan on just the first paragraph for a good 10, 20 minutes. Because it actually is that important to remember Maharaj's Murti. And if you've remembered his Murti, then Jignan or whatever Maharaj wants to say, it'll be easier. We can understand it more easily.
It's very different to my personal experience would be okay, the title, like you said, it tells you what it's about. So that's important. And then I'll be like, right, where is Maharaj talking about this? And I'll literally skip to that. But yeah, it's worth, I get the point about the authenticity and all of that, but sometimes I think just honestly, it's just there's a date, Maharaj is here, is wearing this, and it feels like
repetitive.
Yeah, it's going to be the same thing, and that's what leads to.
There are a lot of it is quite repetitive. It's the same thing, but there are a lot of places in which the Paramahamsas have described details which wouldn't, minute details which, when you think about it, it helps you to visualize Maharaj's Murti in a more sort of elaborate way. So they're very important details.
When this one says Maharaj is joyful.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, cheerful.
Cheerful.
Yeah, cheerful. Cheerful. That's the word.
Yeah, I like that. I like that part because it's a bit behind the scenes, what's going on.
Yeah. So the atmosphere is quite jovial.
Yeah.
Right. So it's an interesting scenario considering the message that Maharaj is about to deliver. Okay, so if you.
So Maharaj moves. The Vachanamrut moves on, and it says at that time, Shiji Maharaj called for Muktanand Swami, Gopalanand Swami, and some other sadhus. Addressing them, he said, "In our Satsang fellowship, a small element of negative influence remains, which I wish to eliminate today. I want to conduct this matter in such a manner that it encompasses all Satsangis, Paramhansas, Sankhya Yogis, and Karma Yogis."
So in this initial sort of presentation, Maharaj lays down there's a problem in satsang, and he's identified it. Now, when you think about it, right, this Vachanamrut is from 1819, which is approximately 20 years after Maharaj sort of came to Sampradaya and Ramanand Swami made him the head. So he's been around the satsang, and he's seen. In fact, he's the one that has been meeting the devotees and directing their spiritual endeavors. And he's told them, and he's created a community of devotees who, before they met Maharaj, they were into so many other things, right, which are sort of non-spiritual stuff, right? But he's created a community which is addiction-free. They talk in a sort of disciplined way. They're hygienic. They have sort of good eating habits. Their diet is very vegetarian. And then there's also those people who, despite doing these things, they feel that there's a certain amount of dissonance, and they've sort of they become sort of attuned to what Maharaj has said. But Maharaj has spotted the fact that they have laxed in their observation of the niyam that he's told them.
In a way, almost complacency, right?
Yeah, complacency. Yes. So their complacency, Maharaj has spotted it, and he says, I think the exact words are a small element.
Yeah.
Of
a small element of negative influence remains.
So Maharaj has spotted that small element, and he doesn't want it to sprout into a big tree or a big problem. So he's nipping it in the bud, and he's highlighting that problem, and that's the main message he wants to convey.
Yeah.
In this particular
I find it interesting that initially, right off the bat, he calls for Muktanand Swami, Gopalanand Swami.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everyone else who sat there, their interest gets piqued.
Yeah.
And they're thinking that why is he calling for the seniors? Often we're curious to know when seniors amongst us have a conversation. We'd always love to be a fly on the wall. And Maharaj is calling for them, almost to say that actually what I'm about to tell you, no one's exempt. It doesn't matter how senior, if you're a Sadguru, whether you're junior, but no one's exempt. And perhaps also that if the likes of Muktanand Swami and Gopalanand Swami are listening to this, and they can understand the emphasis that Maharaj wants to put on it, then perhaps if the message is thread in them, which I'm sure it was, then it can cascade down to their mandirs and the areas in which they're doing vicharan to the Karma Yogis, Sankhya Yogis.
So like they were like the influences of their time. Like
You could say that.
Say that, yes.
Yeah.
It's
That's
a
how Maharaj wants to spread the message across the satsang community, right? By calling the Sadguru Santos,
So he calls out all the seniors,
all the seniors.
and then he expresses the problem. So actually, Maharaj, you can assess the way he conducts the satsang, because he's when you think about it, he's God himself. Yet he wants to raise us to that level where we can appreciate the spirituality that he's come to teach us. And when he spots that there's a slight problem and there's a possibility that we might be laxing off in the kind, because spirituality is not just philosophical talk, it's actual practice. And what probably Maharaj has noticed is that despite all his preaching over the previous 20 years, there's a certain amount of, you mentioned complacency, which has crept in, so that people, they used to do things sincerely, but now they say, okay, so there may be various reasons why they feel that way. And Maharaj wants to address that. He wants to boost them up to make sure that they sort of pick up their slack and that they get back onto the real sort of mission, is towards spiritual excellence, which he's been teaching everybody for the last 20 odd years or so.
And so he also mentions all satsangis, all paramahansas, sankhya yogis, karma yogis.
Yeah, so it's inclusive.
Yeah.
It's not sort of like a subset where he's targeting people. This because
All the sadhus and householders, everybody.
Yeah. Because it's a culture he wants to create within the satsang community. He doesn't want to allow any sort of like sort of negative talks which will sort of corrode away the sort of positive benefits or the positive effects that have pervaded the satsang up to now.
So another interesting point perhaps is he says in our satsang fellowship, like our.
Yes.
This isn't mine, this isn't yours.
It's a collective.
Yeah, and he's almost giving them shares to this satsang. Like you're an owner. Like there is ownership. We are all responsible for this going forward.
it's a bit like like if I was to have my own business, or I would perhaps behave differently when something goes wrong, as opposed to being like an employee was like, oh yeah, that happened all the time, and
Do something
that's the way it is. But like if I was the boss, not the boss, but if I was the owner, then I'd be like, yeah, this happened, but I need to fix it.
Yeah.
Or I need to do something that will kind of help nudge it in the right direction.
The way you conduct yourself, right, and perceive everything depends upon how you are connected. Gunaditanand Swami also in Swami Amrutvijaydas says, right, that there are types of people in satsang fellowship. Some are like owners, some are like internal enemies, foes, cousins. So this is what he establishes.
There is great in our attachment.
Yeah.
And the attachment determines how you respond to particular situations.
Yes.
And when you take ownership, then you realize if there's a problem, that it's my duty, my responsibility to make sure it's corrected so that we get back onto the main track.
And also the urgency that you can see in Maharaj by him saying, which I wish to eliminate today. This isn't a course of action that's going to take place over a month or a project that it's like today, right here, right now, and we can do it.
He's giving us like a before and after scenario, right? So that he's observed up to now what laxity has sort of crept into the satsang. It's not widespread, but it's sort of, there's a small element there. But he wants to eliminate it totally from today. So he set a deadline. So from today onwards, now this is the approach you must have. A mindset is created.
It's like a proclamation, right? It's like this day on, no more.
It's like probably any company may have a motto, and then they say, this is how we work, right? So this is the motto that Maharaj is now giving, saying that okay, so from now onwards, although that motto existed before, but now I'm making it clear to you. This is the mindset. This is the approach you should have to whatever you practice in satsang.
And once Maharaj has addressed everyone, he goes on to say, now what is this negative influence in satsang? Well, those who preach in satsang speak discouragingly. That is a negative influence in satsang. What do they say? They say, who can follow God's commands thoroughly? Who can possibly observe the religious vows perfectly? No one. Therefore, we should observe only as much as we possibly can. After all, God is the redeemer of even the wicked. And so he will grant liberation to us as well.
I mean, I think this was something I kind of battle with all the time. So like, say it's Shravan Mas right now, like a lot of people, they will do like Iktana or whatever, right? And I don't, because I haven't done a vrat or a upvas since like maybe 20 years. Because every year what will happen is Chaturmas will come along, and then be like, oh yeah, I'll start in Shravan Mas for sure. And then Shravan Mas comes along, and I'll be like, I'm gonna try, and then I'll be like, no, I can't do this, and then I'll just give up and be like, yeah, there's always next year, and then we trod on. So it's like I'm a victim of that in my own mind.
And we take sometimes concessions from ourselves, right? That it's okay. We'll do it later. So that kind of complacency.
Maharaj is talking about like in the satsang. I'm saying I got in my mind.
Yeah. So there are the two components there. One is that it resides within you, and the other is that you pass that on to others.
Interact it.
And those who want to maybe excel are being discouraged because of your actions. So maybe I think perhaps Maharaj is tackling the second point here, where actually it's the one where you're having a negative influence on others, as opposed to the inner battle that we face all the time on a daily basis, possibly on an hourly basis.
Minute to minute basis.
Minute basis, yeah.
Yeah. So Maharaj is highlighting,
Like saying it out, basically.
yeah, he's voicing the problem. This is the first of his observations, saying that people are taking this approach that spirituality is a path of action. It's not something where you just know the theory and everything just falls into place. You have to actually attempt, endeavor, and when you endeavor, then you get the results. So what he's saying is that people are just saying, okay, I'll try, but if I don't succeed, then what the hell? God is going to shower his grace on me, and I'm done. But that's not the way it works. You have to earn God's grace. God will shower his grace, but you have to put in the endeavor, the effort. It's like when, in a cricket match, for example, right? In a one day or a T20 match, right? Even if the other team has just scored, maybe say, you bowl them out maybe for 25 runs or 50 runs or whatever. Right? It's a very low score. So within the context of the game, a one-day match or a 2020 match, it's easily gettable, right? But you still have to get those runs. You can't just assume you're going to get them. You might get bowled out for less than that. So in the same way, Maharaj is saying that you have to put in the effort. God's grace will come on you, but the effort is necessary to reap the benefits and to get that reward from Maharaj, which is his grace. Without that, it's like you're giving up.
But is what Maharaj is saying here, like you mentioned as well, is like Maharaj isn't talking about you not putting in the effort, but what he's saying is that when you feel like you can't make it or you can't do it, don't go around telling others that, oh, what's the point as well? Is that essentially?
Yeah, I think that's also an element in it as well. So there are various factors where why people would do that, because if you take, for example, the context, right? For 20 years, people have been doing it. They've been maybe doing their bhakti and offering their seva and doing everything what Maharaj has said to them. But they don't see anything tangible. The spirituality actually is an inner experience, and it's not always sort of easily felt. Everybody comes from a different sort of past background. So the inner struggles, sometimes you're endeavoring, but the inner makeup prevents us from experiencing maybe the benefits that we feel that we should be experiencing, right? So we get sort of put off, saying that, okay, I've been doing it for so many years, so I'm not getting any sort of result from it, so why do I need to do it? Why should I do it? That sort of negativity creeps in. And then, you pass on that negativity to others, like, okay, I've been trying this, right? But you won't succeed.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a subtle Nastik bhav, right? Though you are a believer, but still you may feel that kind of portion that, oh, it's okay, it's good, that it's kind of a motivational words. Yeah. But I'm not really able to achieve that. So not only you process it within, but when you tell this to others that, okay, they keep saying this, but this is not that achievable, right? So we stop chasing that.
It's not seeing the result.
Yeah.
And Yogi Bapu used to actually give an example for this. He used to talk about like gold. And when you melt gold, in the beginning, as the degrees is going up and up, you won't see any difference, but it's still melting. And there's a point when the inside everything is melted and then it becomes liquid. But until you get to that point, you won't see any difference. And so it's the same thing here. Like you gave shower mask as an example, but the reason why it's like you're putting it off is like, oh, you don't see the rajipo. And oh, today I finished my upvas. You won't get anything out of it, in that sense. You don't see it, but karika, it's still melting. There's something happening that we just can't see, and that's why it kind of leads to the negative.
I think just 10, 12 days back, I think in Gadhada Section 1.5, Dashrabut Maharaj says, right, that persistence in meditation. Maharaj says that even if one tries to behold God's form, and if that person is not successful, but if that continues, right, for 100 years, then God will be pleased on him, right, for trying, right?
Yeah.
So even if you, So you keep trying, but if you feel that, okay, you haven't reaped that benefit, okay, you keep trying, but don't pass a judgment to others, right, that this is not achievable, right, and don't get the dust down from their spiritual journey or sadhana.
I think sometimes we say these things like from my memories, like, yeah, it's even for a laugh, right? For the gag, like, oh, what's the point? Like, it's not like you're getting any points out of this and whatever. And it's funny in the moment, but then, or it's like, it's you get a laugh out of it, but really it's a lot more damaging from what Maharaj is saying here, right?
Yeah.
Because
Subtle discouragement.
And that point, I think, is very quite interesting, that you get a laugh out of it. So that people look at us, look at our sarcasm, our wittiness, and look at, oh, this guy must be the wiseacre. And so that kind of feeds our ego. Because everyone will laugh at me like, well, clearly he's very witty.
Yeah.
And, he's saying the things out loud that we're all thinking, but he just has the courage to say it. We know that. And that's what's quite damaging. Quite interestingly, Brahmsai Maharaj does Nirupan on Pratham 17 in 1984 in London. And when you listen to it, now, initially, if we were to say, why do people do negative, like vato, maybe the things that might come to mind is like laziness, that they can't be asked. Like maybe apathy, indifference, so they just think that, they don't care enough. Maybe it could be jealousy, that others are getting ahead and I'm not. So what's the point of even doing this? Who can possibly follow Bhagwan's Agna the way he's prescribed it? But what I wouldn't personally have thought about is ego. But in Brahmsai's Nirupan, he mentions man mota, ego, and that ambition and that basically that status. Brahmsai mentions it twice. And I thought that was quite interesting. And at first I didn't quite get it. I couldn't quite get the link. Then there comes a moment in that Nirupan where a Haribhakt is sat there and it's all caught on the mic. And the Haribhakt kind of chimes in and he says, Ge Bapa, like, look at CM Kaka. Like, CM Patel keeps calling us. He keeps trying to call us and get us involved in seva and bhakti and get us more involved in pravriti. And Bapa stops and Bapa says that, like, CM na jivma, Bhagwan ne sant ne raji kara sivai kasu chhej nahi. And he goes, enak lesh matra man mota pi icchanti. Because when you think about it, calling someone knowing you're going to get a no. And they're going to be like, this guy's willing to say in front of Pramukh, what must he say to CM Patel on the phone when it's just them two listening? And it requires a great deal of humility, I think, to be like that. Maybe something that might happen in Satsang, I'm not too sure, is when someone a yuak or a kishore might encounter unfavorable cases, times, maybe company of people. And he falls out of Satsang for a while. And maybe after a month or two, he summons up the courage to come back. And when he does, everyone sees him and is like, oh, look what the cat dragged in. That wise comment. Or they say, oh, look who came crawling back. Or thanks for joining us. Because again, it's nice to be the witty guy. It's nice to be sarcastic. Have everyone to be like, this guy must be it. But actually, just to say to him, it's good to see you. And like, catch me up. How's it been going? It requires a great deal of humility.
but for the laugh, if you say that,
Exactly. Where we
you just washed away all his efforts,
the
right?
premium we put on just getting that one laugh, that momentary 5-second of laugh, means that your condition may not come back. Like the amount of courage it must have taken for him to make that positive step and for you to just pour water on it.
But that's like a major driver behind, I think that's definitely a major driver behind where we would do what Maharaj is talking about, which is like discouraging talks. It's like nobody goes out there like plotting against someone going, oh, I'm going to make sure that this guy can't do this anymore. But I think it's more like, hey, if I say this, it'll be funny. And
But the thing is, in the laugh, like what are we pouring? Like what are we actually getting rid of? Mansai Maharaj, when he did Yogi Taparan, he gives an example. They were all living in Mumbai back in the day, and Mansai Maharaj was in charge of like all the sadhus and basically the training center. And so every afternoon they would all go down and do asanas together. And there was 2 parshads that just wouldn't show up. They wouldn't come to seva. And so everyone knew that these guys don't come to Vasan, etc. Once Yogi Bapa comes, Yogi Bapa talks to these guys. The 2 parshads, he spends hours explaining apne seva karvi, talks to them, himmat ni baaton kare che, he, gives them the courage. And the next day, Vasanas is going on, the 2 parshads come down. And again, that one witty comment, someone's like, oh, the way that, from what I remember, he's like, oh, sevani pushi, basically, oh, these guys, oh, welcome. And they just turn around and go straight back up. And at that moment, Mansai Maharaj is like, you just washed away Yogi Baba's effort. This is the Satpurusha's effort. The Satpurush has come here, to give people himmat, and one comment, and we're going against Baba. It's like the exact opposite of what we're
I think it's like really thinking about what's at stake. Like if I think about it, even from like as a dad, right? Like, I have to think about how I use my words and where I use my words with my child. Like, say, like recently he's got a dholak to play. Now, obviously, he's 4. He's just learning. It's not going to sound great at this stage. It's going to take some time to learn. But if I start referring to it as noise, it's a bit like, oh, that kind of thing. It's going to discourage him. And then I have to think about what's at stake, rather than just like looking out for, how can I not have this noise around me for the next, couple of months or whatever it is. And in that way, and I'm only going to do that because I care enough, right? Like I care that doesn't happen to my child. And I think what, you talk about that ownership thing, whereas like Maharaj is saying our satsang, like he's just giving us shares. Like if I can own the satsang element in the same way that I'm talking about my own child, then maybe I wouldn't say those discouraging words.
Just to build on the ego point that you mentioned, which the fact that certain people, they feel that they can't observe certain rules, okay? So that feels that their ego, and when people find out they're not doing this, they may think that people think less of me. So their ego is sort of blunted in that way. And so to prevent them being isolated in that way, so that everybody's like me, so they'll encourage other people to reduce their spiritual endeavors. So they come to a lower level that they're at, because they don't want their ego to be hurt, or they don't want to seem to be lesser than anybody else, because it's their ego. So sometimes in satsang, either because of complacency, or because you don't want to do it, or you're not able to do it for whatever reason, you want to drag people down to your level rather than sort of encourage people. So that's another reason why this type of negative talk comes out, because you want to make people like you. And the people are in their comfort zone, you see, and that comfort zone, they don't want to move out of it. So Maharaj, obviously, he wants to take us to a higher level. I mean, he hasn't specified in this one, but in other Vachanamruts, he's mentioned that our ultimate our goal is to become Aksharup, Brahmarup, and of a Bhakti to Purushottam. So that's the ideal he wants us to reach. And we're stuck at a very sort of low level, and he wants to push us up higher. But when we're stuck in our sort of like cocoon, they say, oh, this is enough for me. It's over. It's an overkill for me already. But he wants to push us on, because he knows that there's more to achieve than just being stuck in this sort of shallow level.
So I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned we're in our comfort zones, and despite that, we're so negative, or can be so negative. Interestingly, Pramukh Maharaj in 1973 was in Poika in India, and he had a boil on the back of his ankle. It was really painful, and in the morning they had performed a small medical procedure to just remove the contents of it. And for the first time, they'd made a decision, actually today Pramukh Maharaj would not be doing any Badravnis. They hadn't communicated that to the Hari Bhaktos yet. And before they could, Hari Bhaktos came into Bapa's room, saw the peace on his face despite the minor procedure. I thought that everything must be like status quo, everything must be fine. That Bapa 60 Badramnis and a Sabha planned for today. I was like, let's go. So Baba decides to go. Bear in mind, he's in like excruciating pain. And for Baba to agree not to go on Padramnis, that's a big thing. Normally, Sevaks have to force him. And even then, Baba's like, no, I'm still going. Baba did agree. So you can imagine the pain. Later that day, on that exact day in September, I think it was the 28th of September, Baba's, there's torrential downpour. And Baba's moving and he sat on the back of a tractor. He's on a trolley on the back of a tractor. And he gets stuck in the mud. And so you can't jump out because it's like knee-deep mud. If a tractor's stuck, then so will you be. And so another tractor comes to save him. Fails. The second one comes and it fails. The third one comes and it fails. The fourth one does the trick. So his leg is under a lot of pain.
Yeah.
You're constantly being jerked by the tractor trying to pull you out, snapping, and you're just being rocked under the open
Rain,
in the rain. And at the end of the day, Baba gets back to his room. And he could have said anything, spoken about anything. And Baba talks about ego. Baba goes that in reference to the boil and the seed that was inside it, Baba goes that until you don't remove the seed of ego, negativity and man, it keeps coming back. It keeps reoccurring and affecting you. So sometimes, like Baba's mentioned it, he mentioned it in 1984 in London. He mentioned this again. Of all the things he could have said, he talks about ego. And Baba, it wasn't in his comfort zone. I mean, there was no situation that ever ruffled him. But he was in an extremely difficult environment where he has the right to be, anyone in that situation has a right to be like, forget everything. I don't care. I just want to eat and go to sleep. But Baba,
I kind of feel this like, like say for example, you're like in that person, like Baba was basically sacrificing a lot, in a way that he's in pain, but he's still going to go and do this because it will make the Hari Bhaktas happy. But then everything goes wrong and he's not complaining. But then if I put myself into, not that situation because it's too extreme, I can't imagine myself in that thing, but say I've, sacrificed that. I've tried to balance my work and my seva, right? And as a result, I'm already doing a lot. I feel I'm doing a lot that, I've had to do my work and I'm making time for seva. I'm doing seva and then everything's going wrong. Like, I'll just be like, I've given up a lot to do this and people are not cooperating with me. I give up. I'm not going to do this. But then when you say what Bapa, the way Bapa acted is like, things went wrong for him and he still like pushed on. So why can't we?
yeah.
So you have to understand the fact that what Maharaj wants us to do, then we can overcome the sort of resistance that we feel from within or whatever external limitations are. I mean, Mansai Maharaj once narrated a prasang when he said that in many years ago, Yogiji Maharaj was in a village called Napar, and in the morning he did the Pratishta, and then in the afternoon all the sadhus and everybody got together, and Yogiji Maharaj, uncharacteristically, he sort of like became a little bit sort of like heated in a way, and he's like, all of you don't understand what I want to teach you. You just don't understand what I want to teach you. So he sort of like, in a way, exploded on them. So you've been traveling with me for so many years, you don't know what I want you to achieve. So in a way, I think in a subtle way, Maharaj is trying to tell us that as well. That I've been in satsang for 20 years, telling you all these things, yet I want to take you to this level, but you don't understand. You have to pass through this to get to that level. And until you sort of like buckle up and you sort of get out of this sort of like negative mindset or this complacent mindset, you're not going to reach that. So he's trying to sort of motivate us into sort of like a greater level. But sometimes, when you accept something from somebody else's point of view or from somebody else's lens, it's from his or their perspective. It's not necessarily the experience that you will have, because these situations do arise, everyday life, even in satsang they arise, okay? Like as Yogi Maharaj used to say, when in satsang all the vessels are going to collide. That's the only way we're going to become like pure spiritually. But when you consider both perspectives, the person who's actually giving you that insight and the person they worked with, the people they worked with, but there may be some sort of to and fro, there may be sort of interaction which didn't go so well, right? But you can find a resolution to that by approaching in a different way. It's not necessarily their experience will be your experience. So it shouldn't stop us from actually taking on the seva. Otherwise, those negative experiences they might have had it under certain sort of extraneous circumstances which we may not be aware of, and they may not have sort of pointed out, this is the situation in which I had this experience. And then when you take that, so you lose that opportunity, then you lose that motivation.
Creating the shield comes, right? For example, Bhagavad Maharaj used to tell that I don't get affected by other people's insult or discouraging talks, right? Because the way Swami has created me, or the shield of satsang, right? The positive thoughts. So I think, yes, as you told that, right? We would come in contact with such people while they are sharing their experiences. And I heard to Nirupan of Mahant Swami Maharaj on the same Vachanamrut that many a time such discouraging talks might be coming from someone experience, might be true, right? But choice is yours, what you take with you, right? And how to handle that.
So that's why you have to learn to let go as well, because other people's negative experiences can sort of derail our spiritual efforts. And you mentioned that, so I'm not Bhagaji Maharaj, I'm not Yogiji Maharaj, I'm not Pramukh Swami. But in a sense, that's the idea we have to strive for. Even though we're not physically, or even in a philosophical way, we're not, right? But that's the idea they want us to reach. It's not something that the goal that we've set, it's the goal that Maharaj has set, that's the idea we have to reach. So there's going to be a process. It's not something that just, you just sort of inherit and everything just sort of showers down upon you. There is a process, and the road can be tough. It's not necessarily a straightforward road. And as Maharaj mentions, I think in Pratham 70, right, that he knows what spiritual level every person is at. And some people have an easy time of it, and some people have a harder time of it. And he'll reward people according to your efforts. So that's, I think, where our focus should be, on the efforts. And leave the results and the fruits to Maharaj, because he'll give them. If your efforts are sincere, you'll get them. So even though you feel that, oh, this is too big a hurdle for me to get over, but your efforts will make sure that Maharaj has his eyes on you, and he'll take you to that next level, which is what we're striving for.
So that's an interesting point. In Madhya 7, Shashtra Maharaj's favorite Vachanamrut, they talk about someone who's lacking Vairagya, which is a fundamental pillar of Ekantik Dharma. So you lack Vairagya, you will not attain the Ekantik Sthiti. And Maharaj gives a solution. And in that he says two things. Santani Atishay Seva Kare. So the Satpurush is Atishay Seva. And then Bhagwan Agna Pade, to follow the commands of Bhagwan. Why does he say those two things? I think perhaps because how to invoke Vairagya might be quite difficult. It might just be a notion that we're not very comfortable with. But we've all done Seva. We all know how to do Seva. So he's saying that channel that towards the Satpurush. We all follow rules. Here it says that who can follow religious vows perfectly. But Swami said that in Pratham 70, it's not about perfect. When Jivan Bhakt offered that half-cooked rotlo to Maharaj, it wasn't a Michelin-starred restaurant meal, but somehow Maharaj accepted it because it was about the effort and the excellence behind the effort rather than the end result. But back to the Vachanamrut, we all follow rules. To board a flight, you have to make sure your luggage is according to what the airlines prescribe. When you get onto that plane, what you can and cannot take. When you're on that plane, how you can behave in your conduct. We all follow rules. It's just that when it comes to the spiritual path, we become complacent. And
we want shortcuts.
Yeah, we want shortcuts.
We want the fruit without having to put in the effort.
Exactly.
And so
when it comes to studies or business, no matter how many successes, ups and downs we go through, we're like, no matter what, I'm still gonna succeed. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. When it comes to satsang, we feel entitled. Instead of thinking of it as an honor and a privilege, we feel incredibly entitled, which I think is perhaps one of the reasons why we are so negative. So just in the interest of getting through the Vachanamrut, we'll carry on the conversation. We're just gonna finish reading. Moreover, they say attempting to behold God's form in the heart is not possible by one's own efforts. It is only beheld by those who God helped out of compassion. With such complacent words, they discourage others from practicing dharma, gnan, vairagya, bhakti, and other spiritual endeavors for pleasing God. Therefore, from this day onwards, no one in our satsang fellowship should utter such discouraging words. Instead, always speak courageously. Those who do speak such words should be known as impotents. In fact, on days when one speaks such discouraging words, one should observe a fast. And maybe just going back to the conversation about the guy who was burnt, we know that misery loves company. So it's human nature that he's going to want you to indulge in his in his predicament. But here Maharaj is saying that they should be known as impotents. Alongside is running on this and explains this, that no matter how long you spend time with an impotent person, no fruit will come from it. So just knowing that this person is, no matter how much he says to me, nothing good will come out of this. Now, maybe he is a satsangi. Maybe he gives dharmado and he attends sabha and he does tilak chanlo in his puja and does all those things. So maybe you think that I can't just discard him. Yeah, we all have flaws, swabhavs, prakriti, dosha. The Satpurush doesn't discard us. So why should we discard him? But I think Maharaj quite wisely says that just know him to be an impotent, that nothing good will come out of it.
That's a very powerful word. In Gujarati, it says napulsan, which in that era, it's a very sort of negative connotation.
Yes.
And somebody who's impotent can't produce anything. So spiritually, when you keep company of somebody or listen to or pay attention to or take the messages of somebody who's speaking sort of negatively like this, discouragingly, then you're not going to achieve anything. So all your sort of efforts will amount to nothing. So that's, I think, why Maharaj is warning us that this is the sort of culture that's beginning to sort of take seed in the satsang, and he's warning us. So be careful. Even though you're in satsang, there's these sort of like thoughts which are beginning to circulate, and he wants us to be aware that this is a possibility, and all our spiritual efforts will be sort of like negated unless we wake up and we sort of tackle and understand that this is not the direction we should be taking. See, Maharaj, you mentioned that people do dhyan, behold the murti of God. Okay, so to behold the murti of God is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
And in the previous Vachanamas, in Patham 5 and in Patham 15, he mentions how we should persevere. I just mentioned, Bansal mentioned, for up to 100 years. And he says, even if you persevere for 100 years, and even though you may not still be able to behold God, you become ekantik. That's the fruit, because your effort warrants and merits that result.
So the rupa that Maharaj is referring to in this example,
It's for effort.
it's there,
Yeah.
but the bar of effort that we think we have to kind of put in is a lot higher than we think, basically. Because it's not like, oh, I tried doing, just showing us example. I tried doing it, failed on the first day, I'll do it next year. That's not great. It's like you have to persevere every single day, even if you fail, but try, because eventually you'll get it. Whereas,
Genuine effort counts, right?
yeah. Whereas in my case, like I tried it the first day of Shravan Mass, the second day, not for me, next year, and that doesn't work.
How many pieces of land did Pramukh look at for London Mandirs, to build London Mandir? How many pieces of land? Or if he'd given up after like 2 or 3 or 4?
Yeah, in the exercise or so many years, if I perseverance. Perseverance is what I think earns Maharaj's grace.
It's about getting up again, that not just staying down. There is an example, a darshan that we were given in Saranpur, our first year, that really, touched me. It was of a baby. And basically this baby, ever since it was born, his mother, father took care of it, everything. But one day, the baby finds his balance. And you're a father, so you know, right? So baby finds his balance. What do? Take 10 steps away. And you're like, no, come, oh. The baby, now thinking in the baby's perspective, the baby's like, whoa, everyone's gone. Why are you leaving me alone? And it's like, okay, I need to go to my mother. I need to go to my father. So it takes one step, takes another step, loses balance, falls. Now, when he falls, it hurts, right? All these more Shiklev, things come to mind. And he's like, I'm hurt. Where's my parents? He looks up and he sees that both his parents, Raji Paiche, they're laughing, they're smiling, they're so happy. And the baby's confused, like, I just fell.
Yeah, but
Why are you smiling?
Yeah.
And so then, he's like, what? And again, the mother comes, puts him up. He's like, no, take me. No, again, puts him up, moves away. Come. Takes 3 steps, falls again. And at this point, he's just like, no, I'm just going to cry. I do not want to get up. Again, he looks up. Mom's taking a video. Everyone's so happy. And we're like this baby, basically. We decide, Kachalo, we want to do this niyam. We want to take this niyam. We'll fall, but we have to remember to look up. Because when we look up, Maharaj Swami Atishay Raji Dhaksha. And that bar, from just knowing that, look, Maharaj Swami is looking at me, Raji Thai, that gives us the energy to be like, I need to get up. We just stay seated. Like being negative is just that. Be like, okay, I'm not going to walk.
Yeah.
But we have to have Vishwas as well, in the sense of when we look up Maharaj Raji Thai, and yeah, he came Raji came Thai. Why are the parents happy? Because they know, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe in a few days, but my kid is going to run to me. He's going to be able to walk.
Yeah.
He's going to be running. In the same way, the Satpurush, Maharaj, they're just waiting. And they're like, he's going to be running. And before we know it, we'll run into their arms. And so it's about looking up, seeing them. And
That's
not
really
seeing them.
cool. It's like, we kind of heard, like when I think about like Niyam Dharma, it's like, oh, if I don't do this, then Maharaj is like, I'm not making Maharaj happy. Maybe that's the frame in my mind. Whereas this changes it for me. It's like, Maharaj is okay with me failing. But am I trying? That's what he's looking for. It's like, and yeah, hit a home for me, mate.
Yeah,
Like,
perhaps Maharaj isn't okay with failing. I think it's more that he accepts that this is a process and where he's trying to take us. Like, for example, in Vachanamrut in Gadhada Section 328, Maharaj talks about the epitome. Maharaj talks about speaking courageous words. And Maharaj says that if you were on a shuri, you were about to be executed. And if I was stood next to you, you wouldn't even have you wouldn't say anything, that's one thing, but you wouldn't even have a thought in your mind that it would be good if Maharaj was to save me. That's the extent to which he's trying to take us. As Amrutvijaydas was saying earlier, like this is the extent that he wants to take us to. So I wouldn't say that he's okay failing, but I think Gratham Samiti says it quite well, that actually it's about sincere effort and never comparing with others, because someone might have an easier fight. So he might be following all the niyams. So it looks like success.
perhaps like don't even think about failure or success, just no result, just pure effort.
That's right. Actually, when you think about it, the expectation of Maharaj actually it's not that high in terms of what he expects us to do on a daily basis. Okay, I mean, he said you wake up in the morning, you have a bath, do your puja throughout the day. You know, intermittently you offer thad or do arati, spend some time reading. I mean, how much time do you need to spend? Barely half an hour, 40 minutes a day.
Sure.
So, but it's like consistent effort that takes us towards Maharaj and overcomes all these negative thoughts. It's those, you know, there's those tiny steps, as we mentioned just now,
But sorry, with that,
to take us towards Maharaj. So that's what he's expecting us to do. It's not go out in jungles and offer 6 months of tap like he has done. He wants us he's given us a very, very sort of like an easy course in a way. You know, it's not as strenuous as the one that he undertook when he was in the Vicharan.
but that thing you're saying about like how much effort does it take, how much time does it take, right? So let's say doing puja, right? Like I do, we have a set format for a puja, right? Like you do your dhyan, mansi, mara, etc., right? But then say doing the mara, you do get like taking mara is word complacent with it, right? It's like you're doing 5 maras every day.
Because
mechanical. Then it's like then that thing of like, oh, I can actually, you know, fix my frame on fix my mind on Maharaj while I'm doing Mara. You stop thinking, can I? Will I, like, you know, everything puja for years and despite putting in the time.
Time is one thing, and then your sincere effort. See, it goes down to effort again, because if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it, mechanically, you just sit down and just turn your manas, get up and do your pradikshanas and then words, and just close up and just go off. I mean, the chances of you actually connecting with Maharaj is a little bit more sort of like less likely. And if you actually focus and say, okay, I'm making this mistake and I need to correct this, because obviously everything is evolving. Your efforts have to be sort of targeted. You can't just sort of let things run in a sort of like a haphazard way, where otherwise those thoughts are going to come saying, well, I'm not achieving anything, but you're not doing it in a sincere way. If you actually want to achieve that, then you have to put in that sincere effort. That's what Maharaj expects from us.
It's a bit like, you know, I want to study for my exams. I'm going to go to the library every day. I'm going to stare at a book. I can't just stare at it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Bansalbhai Maharaj, as a Sadguru, he was in Mission in America, right? And he was staying in Samari Bhakta's house. And in the morning, after breakfast, he was going to go to Padramani's. And one of the sons who was living in that house, he had an exam coming up. So he was in his room reading. And once Swami Maharaj went up to sort of boost him up, and give him Asivan before he left for the Padramanis. So he went to his room and whatever he observed, okay? And then he left. And then he came back for lunch at that same place. And he saw the youngster sitting there in front of the book. And then once I observed, it's the same page as he was at 3 hours ago. So he said, the pages of the book haven't turned. His mind has been roaming somewhere else. So he's not focused on what he should be doing, which is what happens to us in puja. We sit there in front of Maharaj. He's there. I mean, it's our personal appointment with Maharaj and our gurus every day. But we're not focused. We don't believe that they're there. But they've said they come to our puja. That's their promise to us. But we don't believe that. When you believe that, then there's no way that you can't focus. So I think it's a mind shift. Again, this whole Vachanamrut, I think, is about creating a mindset individually and as a satsang community.
I like that about it's not putting in the time, it's actually the effort in that time. I really like that.
The quality of the effort.
Yeah.
Quality of effort is very important.
If we look at the quality, Ahmedabad, when we first came into Sadhak, I remember he told us something that was really cool. He asked us, he was like, what's the best arti that you've ever done? Think of it in your mind. So we're all like, thinking in our minds, maybe it's like, that time in front of Baba or whatever it is that's in his mind. And he's like, whatever you've thought of is great, but this is what your answer should be. And the answer should be the next one. So it's not a time I did arti really well. It's every single time I do arti, the next arti needs to be better than the one that I've done today. And with that mindset, then it's not like seeing results, but at the end of it, it's like, all right, I'm improving, I'm trying to improve. I'm seeing, like what Swami was saying, I'm seeing, okay, I can make an improvement here. And that's progression. And we actually can feel it, and it's tangible now.
And as Swami said, I think it's quite good. I never thought of it like that actually their expectation isn't that high. There's a Swami that Gurunatha talks about in the first chapter. He says, Nitya lakh rupya lauto hai. So back then, we're talking 200 years ago, to bringing a lakh rupya would be the equivalent of bringing millions of pounds in today's day and age. Because he brings that in every single day in donation. But just satsang gasa to bolto hai, that negativity, if he's speaking it out loud, like, do not like the look of him. I think that's insane. But then he goes on to say, but those who do speak courageously and in a positive manner, because what is my swabhav like? Who am I like? I will arrange for his service. So you're right. Actually, the expectation isn't that like going like it's not like that.
I like that. Yeah.
You don't have to do Mahanji Rat like 5 times a month in order to achieve what we're trying to.
I think it's because we're not organized always, and we feel that, when will I get time for this? But sometimes you have to create that time and put in that sincere effort so that you will get the benefits. Otherwise, time moves on, life will pass us by. Unless you actually determine in your life, or put it in your schedule that you actually want to achieve this, it's never going to become a target. It's never going to happen.
Another thing I really liked about, something I was quite curious about is how serious Maharaj is in this Vachanamrut near the end. Because initially he's kind of said, this one is for everyone. Yeah, he's called Muktananda Swami, Gopalan Swami, and like, the Hari Bhakti is for everyone. And then he goes, all of you, if you do this, if you find yourself doing this, I want you to do an upvas. And he wasn't dishing these out to everyone. Normally it was like only for the Paramantas or the like Prakarans, right? But for this one, he was like, if you do this, upvas.
Yeah, sorry, that's a valid point, because in Gadhada Antya, in the 3rd section, number 19, the Agna he gives for Santos is that there's only a handful of Vachanamruts where Maharaj actually says you used to do an upvas 3. 19 is just for Santos, so that's actually a good point.
Yeah.
This is wholesale.
So in Antya 1, Maharaj has mentioned that we should read the Shikshapati daily, so that the message is reinforced on a daily basis, not on an occasional basis. If it's reinforced on a daily basis, then you know what your responsibilities are, what your target is. But if you read it only occasionally, then you won't know. It's like in India, a lot of the kids, they have an early start at school, so they have to get to their school by about 7ish. So they have to leave home somewhere because the school bus comes to pick them up at about 6:30, right? So they have to wake up at ungodly hours. And the parents always have a challenge to get them ready for school. It's always a rush for time in the morning. So when we ask them when we go to their homes for Padrami, they'll tell us, the kids are not able to do puja because in the morning they just don't have time because of their schedule. So all throughout the week, from Monday to Saturday, they don't do puja. And then on Sunday, when they do have a holiday, they don't do puja because they're not in the practice of doing puja. It's not being reinforced every day.
It's a drag then, yeah.
It's a drag then. So what Dr. Swami has advised everybody, right, is that even though you might be stretched for time in the morning, you may not be able to do it in the morning. Okay, when they come home from school, get them to do it then. So at least once a day they're doing their puja. So it's in their mind that this is something I have to do. It's not something I can skip. So when they get the chance to do it in the morning, they'll do it in the morning. So it's a matter of putting into practice on a daily basis and reinforcing that message.
One thing I like about the whole puja niyam as well is that it's almost like, I know we kind of laugh about it, but it's your passport to breakfast, right? Like it's like,
Yeah.
if you don't do a puja and you don't can't have breakfast, you know, it's like that kind of thing. You always sometimes do puja so you can have you can have your breakfast. But what Maharaj has done here in the Vachanamrut, he's saying, if you do this morivat, or do behave in this manner, and I want you to do an upvas. So again, your meal is at stake. I just like it. I mean, it would make me think. It would be like, hang on, if it'd make me think about what I'm saying when I'm saying, just in general everyday life, not just like satsang akusang, but just like be like, okay, it just makes me think now. Maybe I need to think about what I'm saying. Just basic fundamental constant human skill. It's like introspection. Think about what you're saying and what it's gonna do before you utter it.
I think you're right. Perhaps Maharaj is it's not just maybe negative vata. I think he's speaking to the mindset behind one who is doing Modi vata. Like we've experienced Pramukh Maharaj, Mahan Maharaj, and we've seen in Gujarati they say ke loinu pani kari nakhyo, that he's literally dissolved his being to bring this sansar to where it is today. We see all the Karya, we see all the Santos, the Mandirs, everything, the Satsang, the growth, and all the Pravruti and the charitable and the noble things that happened because of him, all the Vichran that he did, all the Biro he undertook. And who are we to then just be like, actually, you know what? You came from Akshardham. You came with all your principles and your niyams, and you established it. And here I am being like, actually, I don't really care. And not just that, but I'm going to bring my friends down with me. So I think Maharaj is speaking to the mindset, which is why the urgency comes into
the gravity of doing that.
Exactly, right? It's like now I'm getting this perspective of, even if I zoom out a bit more, like you said, it's like, okay, I may be annoyed about something, I don't know, like the food or some speaker or whatever it is, and then I'm telling Ajinati Jo, like, just avoiding that Saturday sabha or Sunday sabha, whatever it is. And what it's actually doing, I have to think about it, and I was like, the efforts one man has gone through to, to make this happen, to make this mandir come up. Like, say, taking London the example, like the amount of effort has gone into that. And I'm just saying, you know what, because I was annoyed about something, I'm going to tell 5 other people to like stay back and chill out at home because it's going to appease my ego, going to appease my mind. And I think that's what Maharaj is hitting at. It's like, no, it's not about you.
Yeah. So when our drashti, or when our sights, like you said, like keep your eyes up, keep looking up. When we keep looking up at him, our perspective changes. We kind of zoom out of our own world and maybe see that because
he's trying to unlock the potential within us.
Yes.
And by encouraging these positive talks, and what I mentions at the end, that everybody should always talk positively. And when you talk positively, you get motivated, so it boosts you up. It's like recently, Bansalbhai Maharaj has expected 10,000 Bharats, then boys and girls should memorize the Satsang Diksha. So in fact, over 37,000 to date have memorized it. I mean, you would expect 5-year-olds to memorize something in Sanskrit. Maybe 1 or 2 shloks maybe struggle to memorize, but 315 shloks in Sanskrit. I mean, that's an achievement. And because of his positive motivation.
One time I said one thing, is like, my wish is that a Barak or Barika learns the Satsang Diksha by the age of 5. And all of a sudden, with just that statement, that Agna, everybody thinks it's possible. And it was possible. Like thousands of Baraks under 5 are memorizing 315 shloks.
Yeah. See, Maharaj is trying to take us out of a negative mindset and put in his place a positive mindset, which will be useful to us, not just in our spiritual endeavors, but in our daily lives as well. Because people have multiple roles and they have to do many things, like you mentioned, as a family person, also in business or in sports, in academics. All these mindsets play a big part in your success. So it's same in satsang.
I think it's a practice as well, right? It's like I can't be not discouraging in the mandir, but then act otherwise elsewhere. I've got to be like play the same game everywhere, otherwise I'm gonna fail. It's like I'm thinking I should maybe just practice it at least at home. And if I can't be encouraging amongst 3 people, how could we be encouraging in a wider team at work or in even a wider like setting in satsang?
From a practical point of view, I think we've all experienced it that so often we want advice from people, and usually we know the answer. So we just want a little bit of reassurance, some affirmation that I'm on the right path. And it's a quite a vulnerable position when you offer your ideas to someone, or you're thinking about your next steps and you tell someone. And usually what happens is, or what can happen is, someone will be like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, absolutely not. Like, no. Why would you even think about this? And all of a sudden, all that courage that he might have had to talk to you about this, and maybe the positivity that he was just like gathering, you've just quashed because of just a little bit of negativity. Just like you said about the Satsang Diksha, what this Satpurush can do and like invoke the masses. There's a blessing, and Amrutvijaydas Swami will appreciate this because he himself is a doctor. Pramukh Maharaj was in Miami in the year 2000, and he was meeting Bill Clinton that very day. So you can take this blessing in many directions, but that day, Pramukh Maharaj wrote a letter to a kid from an Adivasi Vistar, which are tribal villages. And he was, and in that he said, if you still want to study, you tell me. Now the backstory is that Bapa was doing Vichran, and Bapa had met him, and he was in the 10th grade. And Bapa had asked him that, what are your plans now? He's like, Swami, my situation at home isn't good. Only my father earns, but he's a watchman. So it's like very, very low income household. There's no other revenue streams. So Swami, the plan is to stop here, 10th grade done. I'm just going to start working and help out. But because what do you want to do if all things was good? Is that probably be a doctor? But because just get to 12th grade. Just get to 12th grade, finish it. It's about, I can't afford it. We just can't afford to do that. Or because I'll pay. So the son started footed the bill. He gets to 12th grade. Baba goes, what now? And he's like, Swami, this is enough now. I kind of want to stop. Baba goes, no, go to college. He goes, fine, I'll do engineering. Baba goes, why? Because he's like, we'll finish faster. And so the sooner I can start earning. Baba goes, no, you're going to do medicine because that's what you want to do. Baba paid for him to get to med school and throughout. Now in 2000, he had finished his degree. He is now a doctor. And Bapa's telling him, if you still want to study, you tell me. Oh, wow. I will still take care of it. As the day he's meeting Bill Clinton, all it needed was a little bit of encouragement. But no, from 10th grade to doctor, that's a major thing. All because one person said to him, you can do this. And at every stage, just a little bit of encouragement. Baba used to say, you just need one person to tell you. Like, why can't we be that one person for someone?
So this mindset, I think, is what Maharaj is expecting from us to develop. So that in our daily life, everything we do is geared towards achieving spiritual excellence. Perfection may not be achievable, but excellence can be attained. And from that basis, then Maharaj will take us forward. So
I think in a way, it's like I've got to consider what's at stake when I utter the next sentence that I'm going to say, and what impact it's going to have. Is it good? Is it bad? And it just makes you a thinker rather than just a talker. I think it's really yeah. I really like it, but and at the same time, just remember that if you don't, then your next meal is at stake.
I was before I became a sadhu, when I was working, there was a fund manager, and generally speaking, these people are not so airy-fairy and about like philosophical concepts. And on one of his 3 monitors, he had a yellow post-it note, and it said "easy to, easy not to." And I remember I was walking past, and I just stopped, and I turned to him, and I was like, "What is this all about?" And he had read something, and he was like, "You know what? He's like, it's actually easy to be happy. It's just as easy not to be happy. It's so easy to be positive, but it's actually equally just as easy not to be positive. It's like we seem to think that like we need a PhD just to understand this Vachanamrut. In fact, we don't. It's just a choice, which is why Maharaj is saying that I wish to eliminate it today. He wants us to make that choice right here, right now, that actually it can be done.
It's quite encouraging because it's like everything else is like like overcoming your subhas and all of those things is like it's a journey. But here he's also saying that this thing I'm telling you right now, it can be, you can do it like that. There's no like it will take you years or whatever. Maybe it will, but if you choose to.
Yeah, because the mindset is like a switch, isn't it? I mean, your way of thinking can just change instantly.
Yeah.
And once you've changed that way of thinking, then your actions will reflect that new paradigm, and you move forward. Yeah.
Just before the podcast started, Amrutvijaydas and I were talking, and he meant we were talking about just effort and that excellence in effort rather than seeking the perfection, which is very rare. It usually eludes most of us. And we were talking, and he gave me the example of Messi and Ronaldo, that one is just naturally gifted and one works extremely hard to get to where he needs to get to. And a story comes to mind in 2016, it was the Euros that were going on. And it got to a penalty shootout. And there's a player called Moutinho in the Portugal national team. And in 2012, 4 years prior, he missed a penalty that led to them losing. And so as the list was being compiled as to who were the takers, he went into the changing area, or just the stadium seating area, and he sat down, and Cristiano Ronaldo notices
Like he'd already given up. Like
that. Yeah, he was done. He was like, I did something that was a fail, and I'm about to cause it again maybe, and I can't. One time living with it is bad enough. Repeating that is probably worse, and he'll never hear the end of it. So Ronaldo, in the middle of all that pressure and the tension and the stress and the things at stake, he starts shouting his name. He's like, come here, come here. And he's like, you're a good taker. Because you hit the ball really well. Come on, you're taking it. He's like, it's not in our hands now. Like, we can, like, just take it. You'll be fine. And he goes on to take it. He scores. And Portugal end up actually winning the Euros in 2016. Like someone said, it takes a moment. Anyone actually could have been like, oh man, do you know what? That's a risk. You missed last time and it caused us the tournament. This time could be the same thing. And Maharaj here talks about our satsang. And imagine that. Imagine we're on the same team. In sport, often you sledge the other side just to get inside their mind. Imagine sledging your own team.
Yeah.
Imagine you're about to take a penalty and I remind you that actually, remember you missed 2 in training and actually your technique is poor and you don't quite strike the ball as you need to. Imagine we're on the same team and I said that to you. Like, what sense would that make? But we're on the same side in satsang.
Yeah.
We're all shareholders and stakeholders, but we make the same mistake. We keep pulling the other person down.
We've got to realize our responsibility, and with that responsibility, it's an individual responsibility for our own personal spiritual progress, as well as a collective responsibility, because what you voice, your inner ideas, if they're negative, then it's going to affect other people as well, because everybody's not sort of like resistant to negative ideas. If they hear them, they'll be affected. So it's our duty to make sure that what Maharaj wants to create is a positive vibe, so that people are encouraged, even though you don't necessarily always achieve the target or necessarily attain that spiritual experience at the first attempt or even after multiple attempts, but you will ultimately attain that experience. So he wants us to keep pushing ourselves and each other. This is collective effort. Like Gurusnehdas mentioned in his vato, right? That once there was a king, and the king in his court, he had all these robust soldiers present, and he brought out a bunch of arrows, and he gave the bunch of arrows to his strongest soldier. He said, now break them in half. So the soldier comes up and puts all his effort in, but he can't break them. So he takes them back, and then he takes out one arrow and he calls the weakest minister, that's like very thin guy, sort of looks very sort of like incapable of doing anything, right? And gives the arrow to him and just snaps it in half. So then Gurusnehdas says, when you are united in one sort of mission, you will succeed. But when you separate and sort of like deflect yourself from the unity then you're bound to fail. Even the slightest sort of hindrance, slightest defect can derail you. So I think
It can make sense because, like, at home, like, why do you kind of make things work and glue things together? It's because you're in the same team, right? Even at work, like, because you're as a in a business that you're operating together, why do you kind of want to make things work? Is because you're in the same team, and you just have to bring that into satsang.
And in satsang, you don't want to be that person that ruins everything. There's the darshan that they give is if there's a basket of mangoes, if there's one bad mango, it'll ruin the entire basket. And so you don't want to be that person, and always having that, on your mind. And one last thing just that came to mind was there's a prasang of that happened after Baba went to Dham, or Pramukh Maharaj went to Dham. Bansalbhai Maharaj was eating, and all the santos were in front of him, and they were just talking about, they were doing smriti of Bapa. And Narendra Swami comes up and he says something that really touched everyone. Narendra Swami says, "Ke in all of Swami's life, Pramukh Maharaj ek pan faryad nati kari." Not once, right? When we just think of Swami, like what, just, how you're saying, like having the, John Burman and thinking like, okay, what am I about to say? If you just think that, Pramukh Swami not even once has complained, not once has said something negative. That's enough for us to be like, okay, I can't do this. And if I do it, I need to instantly be like, okay, I've done something that I shouldn't have done. And so just like, Swami was saying, "Awa Guru Maharaj," we've got an example like this. So
It's not
it's not
And also just adding to that, but never self-pity. So back to the guy who felt he was burnt. Like it was never, Brahma never had that self-pity. Like he literally went through the grinder.
Mansur Maharaj talks so often on self-pity, right? That you shouldn't harbor that. And
so he took it positively. Otherwise, somebody who'd been blamed sort of without cause, right? Could always take it negative. So why is he blaming me? It's not my fault. They should know better. You could take it in that direction and then tell everybody that, oh, look, these people are accusing me without any evidence. But what he kept it to himself and he didn't tell anybody about it.
It's like in those in that situation, it's like it doesn't matter what the experience is or what kind of circumstance came up. Like during Lentha, these kind of blessings from like from Maharaj's life, Maharaj's life, and you'd feel less burnt, I guess. Yeah.
It helped you to overcome those sort of like negative thoughts, because you might not voice them, but you'll still feel probably that, oh, I've been hard done.
Yeah.
When you reflect on what has happened to the past, in the past to the senior Swamis and senior Haribhaktas,
They didn't have to go through that, right?
when you put it into perspective, right, you realize ours is a trivial thing.
it's nothing.
Yeah, it's a trivial thing, and we go into such a big thing, and sort of use that as an excuse to not do what we're supposed to do. So what as Maharaj has meant throughout the Vachanamrut, right? He's asking us to own the satsang with a positive mindset, and he wants us to do it. He wants us to be so particular and so consistent in using that positive mindset, that he says whenever we don't sort of use the positive mindset, innocently, do a fast, because that will give us that awareness, which you mentioned. Nobody else knows over here. Yeah,
It's immensely powerful.
yeah, it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah, I think for me it was like I gotta just assess in whether it's at home, at work, or in satsang, the words that I utter, what's gonna be the impact? Is it worth it? And if it is, then say. If not, then don't. That's it.
it's a powerful choice, right? Whatever I speak, whatever I utter, will it help me in my spiritual journey? Will it help others in their spiritual journey with their association with Sanstha, Satsang, Satpurush? If no, don't do it. Don't say it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a really nice point. Gadhada Section in Swami Amrutvijaydas says, Satyahid Anibriya. Is it truthful? Is it loving? Is it of benefit to others? Then say it. If not, then is it even worth saying?
You were saying, yes. So words make a difference. They have an impact, and you've got to be very careful. Maharaj is telling us very, very careful on how we present our thoughts to other people, even though we may be having an initial negative mindset, right? But we've got to convert ourselves, and we've got to create an atmosphere where everybody feels that this is achievable. So spiritual endeavors, spiritual excellence, it's not an easy thing to achieve, even though the path has been sort of like made easier for us by Maharaj's sort of like instructions. Okay, so that's a very interesting perspective that Yogiji Maharaj used to give as well. Satyahitne, Priya words. They're the things that help us to navigate any situation, because when you put things into perspective, you realize what's achievable and what's not achievable. And what Maharaj is telling us here is that spiritual excellence is an achievable thing, but you have to create that mindset. So on an individual level and as a collective level, as a satsang community, that we have to be positive. That also, even though the end result may seem far away, but it's still achievable. But as long as you approach it with the correct mindset, and Maharaj has come down, as Gurunath Swami mentions, that he's come up with so many manvantars, so many vessels to take us all to Akshardham, and we've got to fill those vessels up. And only by creating a positive environment, only by sort of creating a community which feels that this is achievable, we will be able to achieve what Maharaj really wants us to achieve. So I think at a spiritual level, even though this principle is applicable to non-spiritual activities as well, because positive mindsets, as we mentioned earlier, can have good outcomes and successful outcomes. In our spiritual life, this is the approach that we must take, otherwise we will fail. And Sriji Maharaj wants us to achieve that highest status of becoming Aksharup. And the only way we can do that is by adopting this positive mindset, which will take us beyond all our perceived restrictions, because restrictions are only in the mind to a certain extent. And when you can overcome that mental barrier, then we can achieve all these spiritual goals.